Right, I'm going to take you through some basic gait exercises. So these are the real beginner exercises that get you into some of the more complicated workouts that I've already demonstrated elsewhere on my YouTube channel. So you can start by doing the functional warm-up. That's another YouTube video that I made. That's kind of the first exercise here will be one of those exercises, but also the other exercises are a good start in gait training. There's no weight involved, so they're pretty safe, even if you haven't quite got your posture right. But it's really important that before you get into the gait side of things, that your posture's pretty good, or at least you've got quite good control of your posture, and you can adjust it accordingly, and you know vaguely when in movement and certain positions how to hold yourself. So that's really important. So we're just going to do a few simple exercises. We can start. I'm just going to do 4. The first one is one of those in that functional warm-up exercises. So one of the really important parts of gait is that you get this thoracic rotation here whilst your legs are moving straight in that sagittal plane. So the legs are moving in the sagittal plane, as in they're just going forward and back, and then your upper torso is doing the rotational work. So that's the very fundamentals of gait. Now if you can't rotate your torso very far without then rotating at the hips here, then you've got a bit of a problem in your gait, and then you may start doing this as you walk, and this isn't very good for your hips, knees and ankles. So this is the first thing we need to sort out. So the first exercise we can do, find that good postural position, just like in the static postural video that I've done. Squeeze the shoulder blades back, big deep breath, posteriorly to your pelvis. So we want everything as lined up as you can, nice and straight, like this. And so once you've got that position, just bring your hands out forward ahead of you here, and then just turn your upper torso without moving your hips. So the hips should stay nice and still. Move just left to right. Don't forget to breathe as you do it. Now if you're holding a good postural position while you're doing this exercise, you'll actually feel this work is giving you quite a good core workout, believe it or not. And also, you may also feel some contraction in the glutes as well. So that's all you're going to do. And what you really need to focus on is that you're not moving your hips as you go like this. So there's a mirror behind me, obviously I'm in front of the camera right now, but if you can do it in a mirror so you can make sure that your hips aren't moving, that's great. And then you just take it to that range where you feel like you can't go any further without your hips getting involved. So maybe about 10 in each direction for that, breathing all the way. Okay, a really important exercise in gait training is swinging. Swinging is very important. Obviously, when you run and walk, you are doing this kind of parabolic swinging motion with your arm, and so this happens in association with that thoracic rotation in the first exercise. But it's not something that very many people are very good at. You often see a lot of kettlebell swinging going on where there is a failure to integrate the upper and the lower body together. So you know when you're doing it right because it will feel like there's some integration going on. You won't be putting too much pressure on your shoulders when you swing the weight, and also you won't require that much hinging going on, so you don't need to squat down too far with this exercise. So I'm going to start first with a really light weight to make sure I don't bash the mirror in the background. And so what I want you to start off with, super basic. Super basic, again that good postural position, into this position, and then as you go down, you're just going to hinge slightly to about there. If I show you from the side on, we're going to hinge here. If you look at my back, it should be fairly flat. Remember, if you looked at the static postural exercises, there's that bent over position where you're controlling your neutral spine as you bend over. Because in this position, you need to be quite well posteriorly tilted, but then you don't want to keep that position as you bend over, so you need to adjust your spine anterior tilt as you go down, and it's exactly the same with this exercise. So as we go down, we're just going to swing like that, and it should feel super easy to do. If I show you from the front on, if you look at the knees, what's happening at the knees, this is quite important. So get that good postural position. We only want to do it one side. The knees should stay fairly straight. Now, if you don't hold a good postural position, what will happen is you'll see some buckling going on at the knees here, and that's a good sign that you're not integrating as you should. You haven't quite got your posture in the right position. You might be using your arm too much, you might be using your legs, your quads too much. So it's worth practicing again in the mirror. We're going to look like this, and you see the knees aren't buckling as I go down. Now what you might see is if I'll do this with a heavier weight to show you. Now, as you get heavier, this exercise gets more challenging obviously, but it also gets more challenging to do it technically right. So if you look at the knees on this exercise, perhaps you might detect a little bit of a buckling when I'm doing it. That's quite a heavy weight, that's 9 kilos I'm swinging there. Obviously on one side it gets quite difficult. I'll just switch to the other side here to show you. But you will certainly see the buckling if you're not holding a very good postural position. So let me just switch sides for you, and I'll do one with good posture again. So shoulders back, big deep breath, posterior tilt. Holding a good postural position all the way up. And the more advanced exercise, you can go all the way up like that. But you only need to go here for the moment. But as you can see, you get that buckling in the knees. And so obviously you need to master it with the lower weight first. Now if you have a poor postural position and you're swinging this weight, the knees are going to go all over the place. So you need to be holding your pelvis nicely. You need to have a good postural position as you go down into that hinge to do this exercise properly. And that's again worth practicing in the mirror. Start off super light until you've got rid of most of that buckling in the knees, and then you can move on a bit heavier. Also, if after the exercises you're feeling stiff up here, again, it needs to come more from your core and your glutes. That's the area that we're really focusing on. This is the powerhouse of the body, and then your arms and the other extremities of your leg. Those are what's, they're integrated into it. They're doing a lesser motion. It should all be coming from the core, the glutes mainly. So if you're feeling it anywhere else, particularly the next day, if you get stiff up here, there's still work to be done on the technique. So that's a swing, just a simple, this one's just a dumbbell swing. It's good to do that once you bash your knees, but also you can do it with the kettlebell as well, it's just the same. But the next one I'm going to do is a kettlebell swing. I'm going to do this between the legs. We're going to do a kettlebell swing between the legs. I think this is one of the exercises I see most probably wrongly done in the gym. Don't want to say wrongly, I think that probably it's just a different form of the exercise, but perhaps not an optimal form of the exercise. So again, what we've got to try and watch out for here is the normal kettlebell swing you might see. You might see the hands, both hands on, feet turned out, and then we're doing a big squat, and then swinging it up like that. I'm not going to do that. I want to practice one-sided movements, because your gait is one-sided or contralateral, so it works with the other side. So we're not going to do so many bilateral exercises. I will do some, but not too many. So for this exercise then, we're going to also practice turning our shoulder in. So as you come up into your gait cycle, or if you're throwing, this shoulder's coming over and around, I want to practice this kind of motion. So as we come down, I'm going to turn the shoulder in, but I want the feet facing pretty much straight. So there's going to be a bit more of a gap than normal, and then you're going to come down here. So we're just turning the shoulder, like that. And we're going to throw the arm back at the same time. And so this kettlebell is a little bit big. Hopefully you've got a smaller one, so then you can have an even more narrow stance. So doing it off the left leg, it should look something like that. Again, just like the other kettlebell swing, you're aiming for good posture, and then the advanced version is taking it all the way to the top. Okay, so that's two different kettlebell and dumbbell swing exercises to practice your swinging. Again, stay light to begin with, especially until you feel like you've got that swing down, because I see a lot of people muscling up kettlebell swings that will look something like this. So instead they'll be lifting it with their arm. Instead, it's got to come from the core. It should be a nice smooth swing all the way through the exercise. Okay, so the next exercise we're going to do is a one-arm pull. This is probably an exercise that you might have already done in the gym, but there are some specific techniques to use for this exercise. So again, start off super light, you don't need very much. I'm going to break this up into a couple of stages. So the first one, again, we're going to find a good postural position, find that neutral spine to begin with. So squeeze the shoulder blades back, big deep breath, posteriorly tilt the pelvis, and again, feet nice and aligned facing forwards. And then we're just going to pull that shoulder forward and then retract it back with a straight arm. So that's where we're going to start. So pull the shoulder blade forward. As you can see here, I'm practicing the same as I was doing before, this time with a pull, so that upper body rotation and pulling at the same time. So upper body rotation and pull, just like that. Okay, so it starts with just a straight arm, and then we're going to bring in the pull with it. So straight arm, retract the shoulder blade, and this time pull. And then we want the elbow to be about level with the hip, so we don't need to take it too far back. So it's just going to take it there, rotate, there, rotate. I'll show you on the other side. So try to line up, good postural position. Bring that shoulder right the way forward, and then retract it back. Stop with the elbow level with the torso. Reciprocate with the other arm is great. And that's one arm pull. And that practices that same upper body thoracic rotation, this time with some weight to make it a little bit harder. So that's just with the feet in the fixed position. So we're working on that torso there. In other videos, and you might see that I've already produced one of these videos pulling outside, and you do this with a step as you pull back. That makes it a bit more complex, but first we need to make sure that our hips aren't going everywhere with this weight, and that we can have good control over this upper thoracic rotation before we move on to any more complex gait exercises. It's just going to be a torso twist. So you often see this done again in the gym using these cable machines. You might see something like this for the torso twist, but as ever we're going to be a little bit more accurate than that. So it's going to look something like this. So if I can get fairly straight on with the camera for you here, again we're going to go nice and front on. If I was doing this without the camera, I'd be looking right in the mirror for this one, because this is one of the harder ones to keep your hips really aligned very well on. So bring it to the middle of your stance. Again, a little bit more than hip width apart with the feet. At this time, again, the same postural position, finding a neutral spine. And you want the shoulders slightly elevated, so not down and back. So we want the shoulders elevated. So as you bring your shoulder blades back, big deep breath and hold them up there. Hold them right up there. Posterior tilt. Get those hips nice and stable, and then we're going to rotate, rotate, rotate. You might need to check, look down at your hips and also look in the mirror. Rotate back. So rotate, round, then back to the middle. Breathe as you go. You might only need to do about 5 of those exercises, 5 of those each side, so 5 reps each side. I might do the other side. but you should feel a very, very strong core activation there. And what we're really looking for is that deep core muscle again, that transverse abdominis with some oblique, obviously some oblique activation, and then also some glute activation you should feel as well. If you do this really well and you nail that down, you don't get too much hip movement as you're rotating that way, you should feel a strong glute contraction as you go. Yes, the final exercise we're going to do here is a short lunge. So the lunge is one of the more badly done exercises in the gym where I see people doing. So usually they'll step forward and then go way forward on that knee in a lunge, which is not very good for your knee joint, and it doesn't really get any glute activation at all. You're putting a lot of pressure on your quads, which is not really a very efficient way of moving. Also in this position, you're not in a very athletic position, so you can't move very explosively in any direction off of this position. So to combat this, a lot of trainers will actually get people overstriding in their lunge. So they'll say, look, I don't want your knee to go forward. So they'll get them doing a nice big lunge, and then you can't go too far forward on the knee. Now, the problem with that is, again, once you're in this big lunge position, it's not particularly a functional position. As you can just see what happened with me just there, I've lost balance. I'm not in a very balanced, powerful position in this position. I'm overstriding, and I can't move quickly in any direction coming out of that. So we've got to shorten the lunge up, and it looks something like this. So a bit like in my other videos with the unilateral position, good postural position, one step forward, about hip width apart, and then the butt goes back, most of the weight on the front foot, and you're down into that position and back up. Now, that's not particularly a particularly easy position to get into. So to try and practice this, we're going to use some weight. So the weight, you just hold on to it, you're not really lifting it at all, you're just holding on to the weight, and this will help you sit back into that good position in the short lunge. And it'll look something like this. So again, good postural position, and then down, butt back is the first movement, butt back, and then down. And it's going to look something like that. So about 5 to 10 reps. Most of your weight needs to be on that front leg. If it's not, you might feel like this hurts the toes or your knee on the back leg. So most of your weight should be on that front leg. And what we're looking for here is really good glute activation and not any pain in the knees, not going forward on the knees at all. So that's your simple gait workout. These are some exercises that you can practice mastering that aren't particularly dangerous and you have to get before we can do any of the fancy stuff, which actually has a danger element if you haven't got good control over your posture in some of these positions.